Alrighty, I wasn't planning on doing a video today, but I get lots of inspiration for more ideas on how the Mormon Church needs to be run away from by the members of the church, and I end up taking the abuse from the Mormons, who refuse to recognize within their own church that it's wrong, and not just wrong, but pure evil. And so yeah, this is going to scare Mormons if you're going to finally wake up to it. And, I'm sure you've seen the movies, TV shows, where a person, whether the character for the day or a long-time character, they all of a sudden realize, and it's usually on a season finale, when the good stuff happens, the shocking stuff. Most of the time it's favorite character dies or gets shot. Who shot JR? And something to get everybody's oh wow. And so when you have a character who you've known and loved, and or the character's known and loved, and then all of a sudden it comes out that they've been working for the enemy. Have you ever seen those shows? You ever been surprised? You know, this isn't like The Sixth Sense, where Bruce Willis finally comes to the realization that he's dead, and that's why he can see dead people. Or the kid can see dead people and whatever, and so it's not that kind of a shock. This is where the person you thought was a protagonist turns out to be an antagonist. They switch. And some people can do it well, but others, you're just going, oh man, come on, that was lame. But yeah, this is what the church is, guys. This is why I will not go back to the church. I was threatened by the bishop, who used Mafia tactics. Yes, Mafia tactics. Not to come back to church. Bishop Hammond, yes, I'm naming names. He said, I don't want you publishing, because I did a video on YouTube about the Book of Mormon being the official doctrine of the LDS Church concerning the fall of Adam. And he says, don't bother coming to church if you're going to keep that video out, if you're not going to be silent on that. See, people force you to be silent when they're wicked. Don't you tell. You know, and they have all sorts of threats to keep you from telling. Non-disclosure contracts, agreements, threatening to hurt loved ones at the more extreme, and in the middle, you know, just other things that they have on you to get you to comply with their demands. And so one of the ways, we'll just go over the different ways on Mafia tactics, crime boss tactics, terrorist tactics, gang tactics. It's all the same stuff. Authoritarian government tactics. And because yes, I was threatened by police officers this past week. West Valley police officers. I went to them for help. I was filing a complaint. The police officers came with those who I filed a complaint with to threaten me to comply with those who I filed a complaint with. And they echoed the same threat to me. And so, yeah, this is crime run rampant. And I grew up with it my whole life, even as a kid. And you know, little kids are taught this, and they utilize this tactic. And the more a kid gets away with it, the more they do it, and it escalates, and then they become, you know, a horrible person in society. They become president one day. So yes, a simple thing to recognize is they do favors for you. You don't ask for it. You know, sometimes you need help and you're in a no-win situation. You know, your car breaks down and you don't have a cell phone, you don't have money on hand, and somebody comes by and says, I'll help you. And they may not ask for a favor immediately. They may come back to you later on in life, saying, remember that time? You owe me. That's a mob tactic, a terrorist tactic, a gang member tactic, a crime boss, Mafia, terrorist, authoritarian. Oh, that's what they do. That's why Jesus, as recorded in the New Testament, says you need to give without expecting a return. Just freely give. Somebody needs help? Give. Don't expect anything back from them. So the author of Jesus, he knew, don't threaten people. Don't hold them captive, which is the other one. And this is usually done through a dichotomous choice. The police officer didn't even know the definition of dichotomy. So, hold on while I do stuff while I'm messing around here. Alright, and then, hold on, I gotta lower this so I can see the screen. Oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. Okay. No. I'm setting up for a big project later on this afternoon. And so, yeah, I may not be doing many videos after today, after this one. Alright, so a dichotomous choice, we see it as kids, you know. We want to do things as kids, and mom or dad or both say, this is my house, it's my rules, or you're out. Oh, dichotomous choice. Comply with mom and dad and their law, or get out. Dichotomy. You're held captive as kids. You are reliant, dependent on your parents for your lives. And until you're old enough to go out and get a job that makes a lot of money, because as kids you can only get McDonald's jobs unless you become like a drug dealer, as one of my classmates in high school. He thought that with all his new found wealth that he should dress the part. And so he comes to school all dressed up and is like, dude, you're doing drugs, aren't you? You're selling drugs. We didn't see him after school, or at school. Rule number 1 in theft. If you steal a lot of money, Don't go on a spending spree. Spend a little at a time here and there until the statute of limitations runs out. So, good times in Southern California. But yeah, so people get you to owe them a favor, and then they give you only two choices. And with the two choices, you know, it's something as parents over kids to, we have your daughter, give us the money or she dies. That's what happened in me, in my situation. My wife takes my kids away, and I had to comply with providing her support, or I will never see my kids again. And I was forced to comply, but I never saw my kids again. So there's no guarantee when it's a corrupt dichotomy. And so, you know, Trump. Give me the money for a wall, or I will not stop the shutdown. A dichotomy. Americans were being held hostage by our own president. That's mob tactics. That's terrorist tactics. Kidnapper tactics. Our own president. And the Justice Department, what are they doing about it? Nothing. Our president commits treason against the American people, and they do nothing. They go after the low-end people, but they've got the president dead to rights for criminal behavior, and they're not doing anything. This is a nightmare. And it applies to the church, too. And then we have, with the Russian involvement, we've now learned this word compromat. It's similar to compromise. It's where we get the word from. It's where you have to give up, sacrifice, in order to have a deal with another individual who is supposed to be in a compromising position as well, where they sacrifice and lose something so that both sides can get something done, but both sides sacrifice. But when one side refuses to compromise and forces you to compromise, it's not really a compromising situation. And the police officers were putting me in that position. That was another tactic that they were using on me, along with the threats to my life, with the dichotomy. You know, they were trying to make me compromise. They said, you need to compromise. Yeah, but they're not compromising. Yeah, but you need to compromise. No, I don't need to compromise. And I went over the whole thing about Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you know, that Mormon guy. And I had to end up bringing out that he has in there that if 2 people want something accomplished, you don't need to compromise. You can have a win-win for both parties, but both parties need to step out of their box to realize what they want. But then I had to hit it home with the officer, who is horrible with debate, that when there's at least one individual who is corrupt, and he didn't catch what I was using this for, way smarter than these guys, and because it was applying to them. I was using metaphoric, simile storytelling that applies symbolism to the officers and what they were doing to me that day. And said that when at least one person in the I don't know what you call it, the meeting, the decision, is unwilling to work with the other person and is corrupt, there can be no win-win, and there is no compromise either for such a situation. You are forced to sacrifice, and that's, if one person has to compromise and the other person doesn't, that's not compromising. That's being threatened through this terrorist mob mentality. And so compromat is a situation where it's similar to the favor, where you do a criminal action or a sinful action, if it's in a religious context, something that would compromise you if others found out that you had done that. And so, yeah, you steal a candy bar or tag. So that's what we have in Utah. The taggers are the new recruits, and in order to rise up in the gang has them tag. Okay, go prove yourself, go out and tag. Well, that compromises the new recruit. They are forced to commit a crime, vandalism, in order to be accepted in the gang, so that the gang now has something over them, and the gang can control that individual. In situations where you don't do anything wrong, you don't join the group, but you want to do a business deal, you know, so you like build a temple in Russia. Well, Russia is controlled by the Russian Mafia, with Putin as the crime boss, the godfather. And so, yeah, they'll let you do temple in Russia, Mother Russia. Horrible Russian accent. And but they will want you to do some things for them, some favors, and they'll try to get you on compromat. Hey, why don't you start some LLC companies that Max Roth reported on back in May 2018, so that we can funnel money and you can launder it for us through the stock market as well. Deutsche Bank for Trump. LLCs, thanks to Trump's order that nobody has to report who donates through the LLC companies. And it just so happens that it corresponds after the announcement. Not that they were building, but they were working on getting a temple in Russia. That's the pattern. Very identifiable. And so, compromat. Yeah, you either commit a crime and to have them hold something over you, or if Nelson may have said, no, I'm a religious leader. The people look up to me. I will not commit a crime for you. Okay, fine, very well. We will discuss this in a month. Go your way. And then all of a sudden, photos emerge from the hotel that Nelson was staying at, or the apartment that Nelson was staying at, usually at a stake president's house. Now, so somehow cameras got placed inside the house, and we're taking hidden camera videos. And then those videos got doctored and altered. And audio doctored and altered. This is what Russia does. And So, yeah, anybody going to Russia will get compromise on them, especially if they're American. Why? You got to know your history of Putin and Russia. Putin blames America for rigging the 2011 Russian elections. Didn't know that, did you? They didn't bother to tell us during our 2016 election, did they? So yeah, Putin wants to destroy America. Anybody who wants to do business, they will get compromise on you. If Nelson is a good guy, they made compromise on him. They created it. And if he gave in, and those LLCs actually are funneling Russian money and laundering it through the stock market, he's got criminal compromise. And so, yeah, that's how the Russian Mafia works. It's the same tactics. You know, Putin mixes it up, but it's all the same pattern. It's all the same base system that I'm going over here with you. And then another one is similar to the dichotomy being held captive. It's you have to sign contracts. You're under duress. You either sign the contract or you get punished in some way. And I'm sure you know about the Mafia of New York, where they go around collecting protection money from all of the local stores and store owners. And if they don't pay up, well, then mysterious fires happen and they lose their businesses. And if you've seen the certain movies where the Mafia terrorist holds the business owner captive or his family captive, sign over your business to me and your family will live. Those contracts are under duress. They are not really legal because contracts under duress are automatically null and void. But if you go to the judge and say, Your Honor, I was forced to sign this because my daughter was held captive. Well, you'd have to prove it. How would you prove it? Make you an offer you can't refuse. And so, I never could catch on to the Long Island accent either. Although I think Godfather, wasn't that Chicago? Was that Chicago gangs, or I don't think it was New York gangs. But yeah, as you can see, you can probably look back in your life now at situations where you too were compromised. And this is what Bishop Hammond did. He gave me the dichotomy choice. Be silent or never come back to church. Don't bother. That's the word he used. Don't bother. Why would you bother? And people who do this, they may not even recognize that they're doing it. That they're being evil in order to do good, as they think. You know, Bishop Hammond, I'm sure, thought, you know, I'm protecting the church over the Book of Mormon as the official doctrine? Huh? You're kicking out another member? He'd already chased out 300 members. I was in a ward missionary. I was assigned to find all the people that weren't going to church anymore. And yes, I was hearing tale after tale of Bishop Hammond refusing to give aid to those needing it. He was extorting from these members, and the members refused to give in to extortion. So, okay, we're not going to church anymore. You know, he's a military man. He's a veteran. He had a boy that's gone out in the service now. And then we have Fred Cox. Worked for the CIA. Was in the Utah State Legislature. Lives in the area. And was voted out by 1 vote. So he was unemployed. And then all of a sudden, he wants to be a part of the Neighborhood Watch. And starts off by just joining the Facebook group. He stalks me. He joins, or I don't know what it's called in Pinterest, where you join up with somebody to follow them or something like that. So there was that. And there's Facebook, LinkedIn. I think he was following me. I'm not sure about LinkedIn. Maybe not. But Pinterest I thought was strange. Why Pinterest? Because you don't communicate with people on Pinterest unless you, well, you could, but he didn't. He just was following me on Pinterest. Former CIA. And then because I was Neighborhood Watch president by default. I started as the vice president, but then the president up and left. So I automatically became the president. But nobody wanted to do anything, and nobody was going to the meetings, nobody was helping, nobody was patrolling with me at night. I was doing it all by myself, and I had chased out the crime from the area, and everybody was turning on each other now. Your lawn isn't mowed. It's just horrifying. Your music's too loud. So, yeah, so I was, okay, well, we're not able to meet because nobody wants to join our meetings. We have to have meetings in order to be officially a Neighborhood Watch. And then here comes Fred Cox. He makes a comment about how I handled a young girl in the neighborhood who was upset that I was chasing out criminals from the park. So, yeah, he's flattering me, saying, you handled that very well. And, okay, what do you want? And then time goes by, and I'm telling people, hey, meeting, you know, I'm being told by the West Valley Neighborhood Watch at the West Valley Police that if we don't have meetings, we can't be an official organization. And then Fred Cox steps in and says, hey, let me join you as the administrator on this YouTube site, and I'll help get people in. Right there, I knew what he was doing. And so he was doing the favor thing. Favor tactic. A harmless one, but nevertheless a terrorist, mafia, mob boss, gang member type tactic. CIA operative. And so it turns out what his ultimate goal was to run for office again, and he wanted to boost his resume. And so sure enough, we were no longer a Neighborhood Watch president. I was no longer a Neighborhood Watch president because nobody would go to the meetings. So he wasn't able to get the people that he was claiming he was going to get. And so people didn't go. And so the Neighborhood Watch disbanded us. But he then went behind my back, went to them and said, hey, if I start up a neighborhood watch, can we just transfer it to me? Oh yeah, sure, whatever, Mr. Cox, Senator Cox. I guess I'm not sure if he was a senator. He may have been a House of Representatives. Anyway, but yeah, last I heard, there's nothing going on with Neighborhood Watch. So I don't know if he got back into government at the last elections. Who cares? But I do know one thing. There were lots of new recruits that were doing business in our neighborhood after I changed my sleeping schedule. So yeah, I know the tactics, Mormons. And I've had people comment, trying to silence me. Don't you dare speak out against the church. You shouldn't say such things. You know, and they'll even say, your tone is inappropriate. I feel darkness from you. You're trying to silence me. You're using Mafia, mob boss, gang member, terrorist tactics. Authoritarian government tactics on me. You will not win. I will not comply. You know, even if people somehow alter my videos and have them posted where I'm, you know, racist, sexist, some immoral or whatever that people can do with an altered video or altered photographs. You know, that's what they've done to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, if you've not heard about it. You know, somebody put out a compromising photo. It was altered. Everybody knows it's altered. Nevertheless, it's still with her face on it. She's refusing to compromise. Good for her. But that's what people do when they're evil. So that's why I don't participate with the church, because they've done the same thing to me. You know, losing my kids, the church played a part in that, in protecting her and not me. Being removed from society for 6 years, the church had a major role in that. So, yeah. And then, yeah, just go back to the history of Brigham Young. He did the same thing. You know, on the day that Joseph Smith was murdered, Brigham Young was seen by a witness in Nauvoo. He was supposed to be on the East Coast and talking about Joseph Smith running for president. And instead, he said, he threatened the witness. Don't you tell anybody that you saw me. Witness told. But apparently it didn't matter. Brigham Young got away with what he was doing. And then all the murders. He's a serial killer. And I'm not sure if you can call an authoritarian a serial killer. It's a mass murderer as an authoritarian. So, yeah. Sad stuff. But that's how you recognize it. So when the church leaders tell you to obey them, not pay attention to the news, don't find out what's going on in the world, you stay in the temple, you go out and do missionary work, do genealogy work, don't listen to the news, don't find out what's going on. It's the end of the world. It's the latter days. Everybody needs to know exactly what's going on so that they can be prepared. You know, just like with Trump. Mormons weren't listening to the news. Fox was not covering the news. Deseret News was not covering the news. Mormons were in the dark about the shutdown. And for Mormons, it's going to be a shock for you, just like in the movies that I was talking about in the beginning. When you find out that your beloved protagonist is in reality the antagonist. But it's going to be too late then. So, there you go. I've got work to do before this afternoon's major project, and that'll last for quite a while. So, but again, I'm still worried of Tuesday. So, just prepare yourselves, Mormons. I know you went to church today, but be prepared. Just remember that if you get food tomorrow, remember that the food in the grocery stores was not inspected by the FDA. So avoid fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy, staples. Be very cautious. Because we're still in threat mode. We could have a massive sickness just break out anytime this coming week. And that would be a result of the FDA not inspecting the food, not inspecting medicines and drugs. I mean, you see the commercials on TV. All the drugs have to advertise that they'll kill you. So now we don't have the FDA checking them. So who knows what's getting out there. And then, of course, with the shutdown, the FBI, Border Patrol, were not getting paid. Many were taking time off. And so who knows how many terrorists have leaked into our country because Trump opened up the borders, which he said he would never do. He wanted to build a wall to not have open borders that the Democrats want. So yeah, Trump compromised America. He put us in a national security threat. And as one former, I can't remember his position, intelligence officer, I think, he said that Trump is a clear and present danger. And if you haven't seen that movie by Harrison Ford, go watch it. So, all right. So, yeah, it's getting to be noon. I probably should eat. I get so caught up in work now that I forget that I need to eat, or get too busy that I have to keep going and I can't get to eating. And when I do get food prepared, I get to it, and so the cereal gets soggy and the heated stuff gets cold. So, yep. Eating is a burden. Sleeping is a burden. Why can't I be immortal so I don't have to worry about any of that? All right.